Okay, it's recording.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. We are having the monthly meeting of the Eastchester Fire Board. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So the meeting's called to order at 9:34. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. We'll start with Jamie's treasury report. Realizing that, Jamie, I had invited Joe Paterno to come to this meeting, and when he announces himself, we're going to try to fit him in, but please continue until that point.
Okay, no problem. One second. Okay, so today we are looking at a couple of things. We have closing out our 2020 year end, and there are certain budget transfers associated with that, and as well as just some, current matters. So we're going to start with the year end budget. We did finish the year with approximately a $1.3 million budget surplus. A number of expenses came in under budget. Our uniformed firefighter salaries, our CERT claims, which are, always very difficult to estimate what we can expect. Our hospital costs, professional consultant fees, and also our fire equipment and capital outlay. So it should be noted of that $1.3 million, we committed $100,000 of that is for purchases that we approved in 2020 but couldn't complete until 2021. That mostly has to do with the accountability software and the related equipment. And additionally, as everyone will remember, in our 2021 budget, we did appropriate approximately $922,000 of our overall surplus to our increased costs for 2021. So that's all factored in. That includes this, that 1.3 million surplus. It includes our full sort of unreserved balance at the end of the year of approximately 1.8 million. So if you look at, our position at the end of the year, you will see we have about $9 million, of which 1.8 of that is in our capital reserve fund, which I know we're probably going to be talking about today. So that's specifically reserved for capital improvements. And the remainder is, the majority of it is what we use to avoid having a TAN for the period basically from January 1st through mid-May when we receive our taxes. That, all in brings us down to about a $1.8 million surplus, which includes this 1.3. So just so everybody understands where we stand. So that's where we're looking at as of the end of December, as of the end of 2020. With that being said, even though we did end with a surplus, there are certain line items in our budget where transfers are required. This is just to sort of, balance out the budget and show that everything was accounted for. It's just something we do to sort of close our books for the end of 2020. The majority of them are, pretty minor. There is one transfer left remaining to overtime, which I know we've talked about a lot in 2020. So Tom, do you want me to read the budget transfers that I'm recommending at this point?
Yes, and should we do them all at once or individually?
I don't know if
we generally
whatever
will
you
read them
prefer.
all and then adopt them as one motion.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's probably about 15 of them, so I don't know that you want to vote on each one separately.
All right, we'll do each one we'll do all together if no one has any objections.
Okay. So the transfers that I am recommending for the end of 2020, I'm going to go through them now for your consideration and approval. Transfer from 3115.4 emergency equipment to 3020.2, tank refills testing, amount $4,375.64. Transfer from emergency equipment, once again, to 3030.2, hoses and nozzles, in the amount of $3,993.09. Transfer from emergency equipment to 3070.2, telephone, in the amount of $22,996.05. Transfer from outside services 1110.5 to 3145.4, association dues, in the amount of $560. Transfer from outside services to 3150.4, elections and referendums, in the amount of $1,312.03. Transfer from emergency equipment to 3220.3, radio equipment and maintenance, in the amount of $5,486.20. Transfer from emergency equipment to 3240.3, building, property repairs and maintenance, in the amount of $41,637.56. Transfer from 3410.47, professional consultant fees, to 3410.11, fire chief salary, in the amount of $8,446.63. Transfer from 3410.18, treasurer secretary part-time assistant salary, to 3412.1, retroactive salary, in the amount of $67.50. Transfer from 3410.15, uniformed firefighter salary, to 3413.1, overtime firefighters, in the amount of $64,029.01. And transfer from uniformed firefighter salary to 3416.1, terminal leave, in the amount of $10,275.34. And that is a total budget transfers of $163,179.05. And again, this is money that we're just transferring within the budget. This is not using money from the surplus or anything like that. It's just transferring amongst line items. So those are the recommended transfers to close out our 2020 year.
Thank you, Jamie. Do we have any comments? Okay. Yes, Stu?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks.
Does anyone want to make a motion to make these transfers, as Jamie stated?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to transfer the money.
And Paul, Carlo, you're on mute. Oh, okay. Paul, did you want to second that motion?
I'll second it, yes.
Okay. And then I'll call a roll. Commissioner Ranalone.
Aye.
Commissioner Keating.
No.
Commissioner Carlo.
Yes.
Commissioner Raven.
Yes.
And Commissioner Roach is a yes. So the motion passes. Thank you, Jamie.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
And then I just, for 2021, I noted on the agenda, I don't know if, Tom, you wanted to speak about this now as part of my report. You mentioned voting to add $5,000 to the recruitment budget line item. That was something we talked about after we finalized the budget for 2020.
That's right, because I think that I said the $5,000. It's a minimal amount of money. It would be probably for the fall if we put a recruitment. We voted to have a recruitment drive and a recruitment committee, and so we want to go out to all the schools and the agencies and have them invite youngsters, people 18, 17 and older to take the next test in 2023. And of course, we have to, collect their information and get them to show interest and do some reach out for, advertising and publishing things to, spread out into the community to make awareness.
Okay. That's something we can certainly make that budget modification. So if we're talking about the fall, maybe at the next meeting, I'll just make a recommendation on that where we should take it from. But that's not, there's no problem to add that line unless you want to just do it right now.
And it would take a vote, correct?
Yes, because it would be a budget modification, so we should vote on it.
And do you, if, I don't want to put you on the spot unless you're saying, oh, I already have a line item in mind to transfer from.
Let's take a quick look here. I mean, I imagine, again, we can really take it. We could take it from our CERT line because that's one of those lines that we typically end up with extra space, and it doesn't have to be a related line. So that's not a problem. I can make that recommendation now that we take 5,000 from our 3090.2 certiorari line to create a new line item for recruitment, and that I can, modify the budget accordingly.
Thank you, Jamie. Any comments? And when I say that, I also mean if there's a comment from the public that has access to the meeting, they can say something. All right, so I will make a motion to transfer, as Jamie said, from one account to the other to put money in our recruitment budget line item so that if, in fact, we want to start advertising and moving forward, we have some resources to do that. Can I have a second?
I'll second that, Tom.
Okay, thank you. So I'll call the roll. Commissioner Ranalone.
Aye.
Commissioner Keating.
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin.
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye. So the resolution passes. Thank you, Jamie.
Sure thing.
So you want to go to the bills, or?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Because it changed, I do not have it in front of me. Did everyone get a chance to look at the warrants and the bills that just came in? Commissioners?
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Yes.
And does anyone have any comments on them or thoughts?
Well, I do, Tom. The one warrant that had the charges for COVID tests at $150 per test, I'm not sure why the department is paying those, or it's been offered up for the department to pay for those.
Chief?
All those tests were due to work exposures. So we wanted to be able to get the people to, continue to work and confidently get results quicker. If we went through the health department, they were saying test results would be available in 5 to 7 to 8 days, sometimes even longer. So it was a timing thing to get results back within, 36 or 48 hours. So we've been using the department doctor on that. And, I had proposed a cheaper testing thing, and the board previously didn't want to go that way. We talked about sharing a testing solution with EVAC and the Eastchester Police, and I think it was going to be $30 a test, but it was not the more specific test that goes to a laboratory. So we wanted the reliability of the laboratory test, so we've been using the department doctor when we think somebody has an exposure from somebody at work that may have tested positive. So those were the reasons we used the department doctor.
I still don't understand why we need, at $3,000, 20, 30 rapid tests when they can get the tests. I hear from everybody that these are available, and they should be covered under their insurance. So I don't understand why we're paying for it.
Okay, I gave the explanation. If you disagree with it and you want me to discontinue, if the majority of board feels that way, I will no longer offer testing. I thought it was a prudent thing that the members would have confidence that, they would be able to get results quicker rather than just going out and maybe have to wait a week for results, and then they're going to call in sick because they're not confident that they're not going to get their coworkers sick. So it was to try to speed up the process of having members being able to come to work, and so that we know they're not positive and that they know they can feel comfortable that they're not going to make other people with children and families sick. So, that was my reasoning. You can disagree with it, and if you want me to stop it, I will no longer authorize members to go get COVID tests at the department doctor. But there's a $150 cost to them, that's all.
I just think you can organize them better, plan better, and from everything that I've heard, that you can get rapid tests very quickly. You do not have to wait 5 to 7 days. I've heard this from multiple people. Assuming they're first responders, they have priority too. So I'm not sure why they have to go to the doctor to do that.
Well, the testing, there may be less testing now. At the height of it, when we started doing it, it was a 5 to 7 day wait for test results that had to go to a laboratory. So I don't know if you have friends with connections that could get us quicker tests. I'd be more than happy to use that laboratory and, direct the members to go there. But I don't know of that, and we wanted to use a department doctor because we already have several members that have put in work-related exposures as a 207A claim. So we wanted to document with our doctor. That was another reason. So no decisions have been made on that. But, somebody can go get a test that may be unreliable, and they're going to offer that as proof.
How do we know it was work-related? How do we know that somebody just didn't bring it in?
We haven't made any decisions on those yet. We'll consult with our department 207A consultant that we have in our department, medical professionals, that they will offer an opinion. We don't know the answer to that, and that's why none of the decisions have been made on anybody's application for 207A related to COVID. There have been worker comp decisions made. We don't make those decisions. Those decisions are made from PERMA. I believe a few members have received answers from PERMA on whether or not they'll be covered under workers' comp for their medical costs related to their COVID. But as far as 207A and workers' comp, they're separate issues. We make the decision on 207A. None of those decisions have been determined yet. And workers' comp is handled by PERMA. They may or may not have made decisions on those.
Chief, this is the first time I'm hearing anything about 207A and COVID. Even though we haven't, have you heard of anybody getting a decision for COVID related to 207A anywhere?
So Yonkers Fire Department automatically assumes that it's work related if their members get COVID. I believe I heard that from their chief of operations. So Yonkers just automatically assumes if one of their members tests positive that it was work related, and they'll cover them. A lot of departments use companies like PERMA or other workers' comp. Yonkers is self-insured, so they have the authority to do that as far as a workers' comp and a 207A decision. We have PERMA. PERMA makes their decision, and as far as 207A, I don't know. I don't know that the other departments are covering it. The only one I heard was Yonkers as far as anybody was covering it.
So as far as I know from other places that are using PERMA, I have not heard of one person even attempting to put in for 207A or for COVID-related issues. That's shocking to me. That's the first time I'm hearing it. Now I want to go and I want to research that. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised that it's coming in the Eastchester Fire District and somebody's looking at 207A for COVID. I think generally, if somebody is exhibiting symptoms and they say, hey, listen, I've got a headache or a flu-like symptoms and we want to be safe, yeah, they should go and they should get tested. That's never something that shouldn't be happening. Just to backtrack so that I can catch up a little bit, did you mention that there was an exposure? Were we saying that there was an exposure in the department?
I don't want to go into anybody's specific medical information, but I will say we've had probably 10 to 14 members that have tested positive, and, they may get their test results while they're at work. If they get a test 3 days ago or 5 days ago, and they're at work and they get the email from the health department or from the laboratory and it says, hey, you test positive. Right. They leave, but now they may have worked for 20 hours with somebody.
Right.
And
yeah, you're right.
So that would be an exposure. Yeah. So we have had exposures because we have had people test positive and have to leave work because they got the results while they were working, or if they get the results the next day. It's like. Right. So yes, we have had exposures, but it's going to be a medical process on whether or not we approve any of those 207As. I rely on our medical consultants to assist me in making a determination on any 207A case, whether it's COVID or a shoulder injury or a heart attack.
All right. Well, for right now, just for the record, though, we don't have any 207A decisions made related to the COVID virus. We don't have that.
That is correct. I have 7 or 8 applications for COVID, and there have been no decisions made, and it's in the process.
Can I ask you something before we get into this, which probably belongs, if we're talking about specific personnel, we should have this conversation.
That's what I would suggest.
My question, though, is just as an idea of process, if somebody is going for a COVID-19 test, are they generally exhibiting symptoms that make them concerned that they may have the virus, like a headache or fever or anything like that? Or are a lot of people just testing to test? Because my question is, really, if somebody is finding out while they are at work that they are perhaps positive, why are they at work if they're exhibiting symptoms that would qualify them to go and get a test?
It's too late. You'd have to get your rapid test and the result 5 minutes before you walk in the door.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that if an employee has a fever or a cough or whatever, and they feel they need to go and take a test, and they advise the department that they're not feeling well, they're going to get a COVID test, why are they then coming into work after exhibiting those symptoms? I mean, our employees are obviously outside to be able to.
That's a different question, Stu. You're right.
Commissioner, nobody comes to work exhibiting symptoms, but the symptoms can develop over a 24-hour tour. So if somebody comes to work at 8 in the morning and at 8 o'clock at night they start to have a cough or they start to feel feverish, we immediately tell them to isolate. They're supposed to go home and seek medical attention, but the person he's working with, you know, we would say that that's an exposure if somebody's having symptoms, and we would have that other person that he was working with tested, and, you know, everybody would have to wear a mask. If you have an exposure but no symptoms, you know, you have to, when you come to work, we take your temperature at least every 12 hours. So at 8 in the morning and 8 p.m., you have to be, you know, symptom-free. Otherwise, you go home. Nobody is at work with symptoms. We immediately, if somebody develops symptoms over their 24-hour tour, they immediately are, you know, there's an order out. They have to isolate, get away from everybody, and then pack up and go seek medical attention. So that nobody should be at work with symptoms. It's their, they go home.
That clarity needs just to be understood. Because I think that when you look at bills and you look at people who are going for tests and you see how many people are on there, you want to make sure that that's actually what the process is. Now, everybody's wearing a mask in the fire departments when they're at work.
That was my next question, Chief.
Commissioners, I don't think we should discuss this with the 207A issues pending, because we're going to be admitting that we got people exposed. This is not a public meeting discussion. I'm more than happy to discuss this next topic in executive session, but I think it would be a mistake to discuss it in a public meeting, because we may say something that could give the 207A claims credence.
All right, thank you, Steve. I just have one simple question. We're going to the department doctor, and it's still taking 3 or 5 days to get results?
It goes to a laboratory. So when it's really busy, like during Thanksgiving time, it took a couple extra days. But before, you know, Thanksgiving or, you know, right now, we get it within like 30 hours, you know, 24 to 48 hours was the agreement. Because they'll do a regular test with results in 5 days, 5 to 7 days for $100. But we wanted the quicker test, which is 24 to 48 hour results. But even during the spike, during just after Thanksgiving, some of those tests were taking 4 days.
I noticed that Joe Paterno came in. Joe? No, okay, maybe he popped out again.
Hello. Yes.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Hey. All right. How you doing?
I apologize to the chief for interrupting him, but I wanted to recognize you and move to that. And Jamie, again, we'll also come back to the bills after Joe makes his presentation. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Tom, hold on a second if you don't mind. Jamie, how much more time do you have for the bills? Might as well. Jamie's already in it. Her finishing out. Joe can sit for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, we
okay.
just have to read the, I mean, I can read the warrant totals, because I think we made a change, he didn't have them in front of him. I can read the warrant totals, and then the board can vote on whether or not to pay the bills, and then we would be done with that.
Right. Let's just stick with it thematically.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. All right. So can I have are you? I'm going to take yours as a motion to pay the bills, Brian.
No.
Okay. Can I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion.
Okay. So Paul Carlo made the motion. Paul Ranalone seconded. Please read it off, Jamie.
Okay, so the bills for the February 2021 meeting, we have a warrant one totaling $433,615.15, dated February 6th, 2021, and a credit card bill in the amount of $993.11, dated February 18th, 2021, for a total warrant and bills of $434,608.26.
Thank you, Jamie. Commissioner Ranalone?
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach will vote yes. So the bills have been paid. Thank you. All right, Joe?
Yes.
Do you have a report, just a report? I know that we talked and you've worked out a thing with the building department in the town so that we can move forward. So I think the first thing is to talk about the ADA work, the scope of that work, and then we'll vote on that. And then
The new scope of work would be to conform to Section 151, new construction and alterations to the American Disability Act, Title II regulations. The following improvements would be required along the accessible path of travel: an accessible ramp to the front entrance, accessible first floor bathroom, possibly accessible doors if required, and possibly accessible drinking fountain and signage, and etc.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any comments about that kind of construction, what you would like to see?
The only thing I would say is that I'd like to see this move forward, and if we are bound to do this work now, that we should just move forward and get a shovel in the ground so we can get that floor replaced this year. So this is the only thing that's standing in our way at this point. I think we should just go forward. That's my own opinion. I'm supporting this, and we need that floor in Chester Heights removed, and we need that building operating normally as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Any other commissioners with ideas or thoughts? Because we're going to turn this over to Joe and have him design it for us. So if you have any thoughts on what you'd like to see in design, now's the time. All right. So okay.
Tom.
Yes, Paul.
I only can say that currently downstairs there's one bathroom that has 2 stalls in it. If we can we possibly put 2 separate bathrooms in there, possibly utilizing the corner room, which was used to be an office. You can make a bathroom with a shower, each one of them, so that firefighters on duty can utilize them as they need, as well as any handicapped person who may come in there.
Joe?
Oh, sorry. I mean, we can explore that. That's no problem. The code says at least one accessible restroom for each sex, or a single unisex restroom is required. So we can explore that option. We can provide a schematic to present to you, so you can look at it and see if you would like the layout.
All right, and as Paul, Commissioner Ranalone mentioned, and I believe you're familiar with the building. building. Behind the bathroom is what they used to call the deputy chief's room, which is just an unused room. So we want to incorporate that space in the design. And then in one of the bathrooms, you know, the district has been moving forward with washer and dryer. So one of the bathrooms should have a washer and dryer also assigned into it.
Okay, so we can provide a schematic, a layout, exactly what you specified, and then once you review it and like the layout, then we can go ahead and provide the details and add it to the new bid.
Oh, awesome, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm not really familiar with this, so Jamie, help me out. If we're going to award this to Joe today, do we have to have the price involved, or are we just awarding him you know, a proposal, an RFP, like a request for proposal?
We can award him. The board could move to award this work to Joe with an amount not to exceed based upon his initial proposal. And then if that amount needs to be exceeded, the board could take another action. So I believe his realm was 6,500 to 85. So we could put an amount not to exceed $9,000 for this work. And then if that work ends up being more, the board will have to reconvene to find out if it wants to pay more than that.
And I don't even think, I mean, Joe, wouldn't you say that's kind of high, that we don't even need to, because you did, Joseph?
Well, we have to design the ramp, obviously the existing restroom. Now you added the existing office, so that's going to create a more laundry situation, or whatever the layout is. But roughly, I mean, I don't think it would exceed $10,000. I don't believe so. We could do it for under that.
Okay, so it like he recommended 9,000.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It won't exceed that.
All right, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
All right, so then I will make a resolution that we award UES a professional service contract to make a proposal for us not to exceed $9,000. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, and again, Stu, did I state that correctly, so that it is for compliance with the Eastchester Building Department's ADA specifications?
Yeah, it's everything that we were forwarded. The ramp issues, the bathroom and the kitchen, all that first floor ADA compliance plus the water fountain. So it would be a proposal in order to design all those additional aspects of the Chester Heights Fire to House.
Thank you. So I'll call the roll.
Tom, and Stu, it's important here because one of the commissioners made mention of this. That is just with respect to the work being done now. Yeah. See, the issue is there was a question that a certain amount, I believe it's 20%, needed to be spent on ADA compliance for the overall job. This is one aspect or one phase of that overall job, so it needs to be made clear that this is just with respect to the money being spent. There has been money spent already doing other aspects of the overall job. I think there was a phase one with the roof and windows, so the public should just know that.
Right, that repairs have been doing, and this is ongoing repairs to Chester Heights building. Okay, thank you.
Right. So, Tom, the only question I have is, are we running a risk by trying to do this now and just handling the 20% of the money being expended now for the floor and not taking into consideration that down the road, the roof and the windows haven't been accounted for? So my understanding after a number of emails that went back and forth that it's 20% of the overall money spent. So my concern is that we have a danger of doing this work and not having spent 20% of what was already spent, which I'm not sure what the number was. You guys can tell me for the roof and the windows.
You talked to Nathan and the building department about this?
So what I'd like to say is that the roof and the windows do not alter the path of travel. So that's probably why that this was implemented at the time. Since we are somewhat altering but repairing the apparatus floor, it does affect the path of travel. So that's why this code triggers in with the 20% of the cost of construction.
Thank you, Joe. And I, specifically went to Nathan, the district attorney on this matter, and he's the one that did the resolution that I'll read after we award this contract to UES. So, but the great considerations, Brian, I thank you for making them. So, Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
Commissioner Roach is an aye. So we do move forward on that step of this piece of repair. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. God bless.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. So we'll go back to. We finished, Jamie. Do you have anything else, Jamie?
No, that's everything for me.
All right, so then just to continue this in order, I want to make a resolution authorizing a capital project and the expenditure from a GML 6G capital reserve fund subject to a permissive referendum. So right now the board is going to vote to move a portion of that money that Jamie spoke about in her report earlier in the meeting that we have in a capital reserve. We're going to, it actually stays in a capital reserve. What we're really doing is voting to approve for Jamie to make all the payments regarding these repairs and alterations forward from the reserve account. So at a monthly meeting of the Eastchester Fire District Board of Commissioners on the 6th day of February, and following the resolution was offered by Commissioner Roach, and can I have a second?
I'll second it.
And second by Commissioner Ranalone. Be it resolved that a capital project at the Chester Heights Fire Station to replace the apparatus floor and make the station more accessible in accordance with the ADA with the scope of work described in certain bid specifications and an ADA compliant scoping document prepared by Universal Engineering Services, PC, copies of which are hereby incorporated with this resolution, is hereby authorized for not to exceed cost of $745,000, and be it further resolved that the Board of Fire Commissioners have determined there are no other involved agencies and accordingly declare itself head agency or lead agency, and further declares that the project is a Type 2 action pursuant to the 6 NYCRR 617.5 C1 and 2, and it be further resolved that pursuant to the section 6G of the General Municipal Law, the expenditure of an amount not to exceed $745,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund and zero from the General Fund to finance said project is approved. Please take further notice that this resolution is subject to permissive referendum. So now I'll call the roll. Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin?
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye. The resolution passes. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next part of this. And so I guess we're up to discuss the process to transfer in a lieutenant as a municipal training officer and/or firefighters for the immediate coverage during the pandemic. Does anyone have any comments they want to make?
Paul, I would like to say that I don't believe we have to transfer any people from another department into Eastchester. We can hire off the local list. We have plenty of people who have hundreds and 95s on that list who are waiting to get a job. And I don't agree that we need to transfer people from other jobs who already have a job. I think we can all do it all, within the local list and make promotions within the department if necessary.
I would say just from my perspective, I don't personally am a fan of transferring in people for top positions. I mean, I'm not totally against transferring somebody in as a firefighter. My question would be for the chief. I'll be transparent. I've never been of the understanding that we were going to be hiring anybody right now, but my understanding is that there's a March Academy, right?
Tentatively slated to start on March 15th.
Chief may have.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, sir.
All right. How about now?
No.
No? All right.
You know what? While we're waiting for the chief, I'll weigh in. I think transferring is if the chief really needs firefighters, and there's been trouble. Okay, if the chief needs firefighters, we have had a firefighter actually leave and go to leave the department, and so if you wanted to fill that place, it's easy enough to transfer someone in. You don't need any special application. You don't need any extra work. All you need to do is advertise, and we can put somebody on that line almost instantly. And it would help satisfy the department's needs. I personally don't think we need to hire, but to transfer someone in would be the better way to go.
Yeah, that's Brian. That's exactly what I was questioning. Man, the chief, I think, is going to try and call in, but.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Commissioner?
Yes, if we can hear you.
Okay, so tentatively, there is a academy scheduled for March 15th. And we are short two. We had firefighter retire and firefighter Rossini transferred or quit and went to Yonkers.
Right, so we're short 2 firemen. If they come in March to the academy, let's say if the board wanted to hire 2 people, if it does, they would not be available to us until August. Is that right?
It's 17 weeks, so it was actually, what is that, 4 months? So I don't know, March, April, May, June. Could be July, I would guess.
All right.
Stu,
I just want to know what that date would be.
I just want to interject on that, Stu. So that's 100% right. And if for some reason the majority of the board decides to hire, and the new candidates get held up in class, you could be sitting the whole entire year without, as opposed to somebody who's already trained and certified to fight fires can jump in almost instantly. Save a few, a little bit of time trying to get acclimated to our fire district, as the chief has mentioned. It'd be a small amount of time. That's where I stand on it. And we currently, my understanding is that we had a municipal training officer, but we no longer do. And so I think it was mentioned that a lieutenant, because we do not have a lieutenant's list, we could also have somebody fill that space almost instantly also.
We have not had an MTO. It falls on the chief because we've never had one. We've had training officers. The fifth captain that covers vacation is technically the training officer. January, February, when he's not covering, he does all our OSHA training. But the chief has always been the MTO because one of the other officers would have to take fire instructor 2 to be qualified to have that title. And I believe right now we only have one or two members that have that certification. And we did try to negotiate it prior to the CBA being settled, but I guess it was not included. Because when Commissioner Inkledon was here, he and I were talking with the union on an MTO position, but it was decided to wait for the contract negotiations. So we stopped that.
So, Chief, then you're in need of an MTO.
As long as the training gets done, I mean, we're in compliance with the law. Yes, it would be great to have an MTO to handle the administrative part of the training, to do all the paperwork and document it. The training officer's most important thing is to organize the training. The captains and lieutenants do the training, but somebody has to track it, submit it to the state. They have to come up every year with the training program. So, I know the commissioners want all the groups to have the same training. An MTO would be perfect for that, because he would organize it so that the captains and lieutenants, I need you to do the training this way. So yes, it would be great to have an MTO.
Just to put it out there, though, regardless of whether or not it was negotiated as part of the CBA, the Board of Commissioners and Local 916 still always reserves the right to discuss these types of matters and provide an addendum if it even needs to be in the CBA, but I can understand why they would expect it to be, because it's based upon a position. That is not anything that has a finite window of open and close. If the board wishes to discuss with the union an opportunity to provide an MTO slot or service within the district, that's never a closed window. It just takes the board to initiate an overture or vice versa from the union, and the chairman can make a decision with board input as to how he wants to play it. So it's never a closed window when it comes to these things, regardless if something's in there or not. CBAs and employment agreements are opened all the time and updated as long as there's approval and money. So just putting it out there. It's not dead in the water. The board can still do that, and the union can still make an overture for board.
Thanks, Stu. Tom, do you want to ask the public if they want to comment?
Certainly. Do we have any comments?
Yeah, hi. This is Jeff Zuckerman. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jeff.
I have a quick question. With these two hires you're talking about, would we call this through attrition? These are not two new people, are they? I mean, you said someone retired and someone went to Yonkers?
That's correct, Jeff. The fire department, their number of employees has remained stagnant. We haven't added any spots. This is completely through attrition, through a transfer out and a retirement. They're not additional spots.
Okay, thanks so much.
Right, and so the point of transferring is one, you can put somebody on that spot immediately, and also the concern about overtime will help as opposed to hiring 3 or 4 new hirees, sending them to a potential class that may or may not happen, and have them potentially sit around for 7-8 months on the books. And the chief not have, be able to enjoy their work. And so it makes more sense to transfer it. So I personally would like to make a motion to transfer.
But excuse me, one more second. How'd we get up to 3 or 4? I thought you said this was 2.
I'm sorry. Who is that? Is that Jeff Zuckerman? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
sorry,
Jeff.
Mr. Zuckerman. It was just me babbling, but whatever.
Oh, okay.
Just so for me, to transfer in for those 2 spaces, where we can get an MTO and also replace the firefighter, I think would benefit the department, and I think it has a better chance at meeting the department's current needs.
Well, Brian, I get that. Let me just put this out there. As the chief eloquently indicated, we don't have that MTO position to hire for, so we can't do that. So we could do that if we were to create it, and then make sure that the person had the proper classes taken, but we can't hire for a job that we actually don't have in the district. But if the board was to be interested to put a little feeler out there to see if there was a transfer in, I mean, we could transfer in one slot and see if that's something that we get any bites on, or if the board wants to then move to 2 slots. I mean, I'm listening to it.
Me too. I agree with you, Stu.
I'm being open to it. It's never usually been my own MO, if you will, but in light of the idea of how long we would have to wait, if this is truly an issue that the board in general feels that we need to hire 2 people right away, and they're able to tell us that it's because we are at 2 people down all of a sudden is so detrimental to the department where we've been more than that down before, I'll listen to it. I'll listen to the argument about hiring people right away, but if being 2 people down right now is not detrimental and we're hiring in order to fill slots in July, and we also always have the elusive, oh, what if there's a retirement? What if somebody goes out? Well, we already know what we do. We pay overtime, just like we have been, and that overtime budget is now there to provide that without unnecessary transfers. So I leave it to the board as always, and I'll listen, but that's just where I'm at.
My understanding, Stu, is that the overtime budget may be exceeded. Even the one we put on paper for $300,000 more will likely be exceeded at the end of this year.
Well, that will have to be managed better.
Agreed.
Hey, whoever's going to be managing it, whether it's the chief or the captains, that needs to be managed better, because the public should know there is absolutely no reason whatsoever that this overtime budget should be exceeded, especially since the board put in $300,000 more into that line to get away and be more transparent from the old budgeting matters where there used to be money coming in to cover stuff. The understanding is that that money is supposed to present to the public the firefighter overtime requirement for a normal year. And right now, I'm telling everyone right now, just on my behalf, this is my last year. I would hate to see that overtime budget exceeded. It's be a sad thing for our taxpayers to see that much money gone.
Well, we hope for one. Me personally, I hope to see you stick around, because
Thanks.
You've been great. So,
but to that point, we just voted to put money into Chester Heights, which has also been a long, drawn-out project, way before any of us got elected, to get that floor replaced. And the money we need to do those jobs dissipates very quickly out of our budget. So instead of transferring money from unused uniforms or whatever into overtime, that money could be transferred into capital projects and fix firehouses and buy trucks that we need and equipment to save lives, not for anything else. So I'm just putting that out there.
We're sharing the same brain. I agree. With the amount of money over a 10-year period, you probably could have built a brand new firehouse.
I can't disagree.
It's said. So I think it doesn't cost us anything to put feelers out for a transferee. And like I said, I agree with the chief. If he had somebody and they left, a month or 2 ago because they went somewhere else, I'm amenable to replacing that person. But the transfer is the one that makes the most sense. It's a single person. You don't need to send 4 or 5 people to the academy. You don't need to interview all the 95s. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's a single, send out a advertisement and see what we get. As simple as that. So I've made the motion to transfer in a firefighter. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
So this is because there was discussion about 2 things. a lieutenant municipal training officer to engage in that spot and a firefighter. But it seems at the end we're just talking about a firefighter.
I think both. Stu said that. Stu just mentioned that we don't have it carved out for the MTO. I don't have a problem with advertising it, even if it's something we need to try to carve out to satisfy the department's needs in that regard. And
well, I'll tell you, Brian, I can't agree with you there. I think it's more appropriate for the district for reasons that we can discuss offline, that we just advertise for the firefighter, which is an accepted and available position as part of the district. And because the last thing I would want to do is make the district beholden to something before we're even negotiated it or have a complete understanding. I just think it's safer for us. Now, we could advertise for 2 firefighters if you guys wanted to, and if that's a need, or we could just advertise for 1 slot, hopefully collect some resumes and some letters of support, and do that next week, get that out there, post it, send it to anyone we have to. And if we get more than 1 candidate that comes in that we're saying, hey, listen, this would be really great to have, then, that's an option. We have a little backup. But I would support filling 1 firefighter role with a transfer if that's what the board would like to do. You have my support in that.
So you've won me over, Stu. So I agree. Yes. So yeah, sure. Let's. So Tom,
have we had our comments from the public already?
Well, we have regular public comments whenever.
Okay. So then the resolution that I've heard made by Commissioner Keating and seconded by Commissioner Rabin is that the district is going to explore putting together an advertisement of some sort to encourage firefighters, active firefighters in municipalities in Westchester County, associated with civil service in Westchester County, to transfer into Eastchester Fire Department. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Call the roll. Commissioner Ranalone.
I'm going to have to vote no, because I believe we have plenty of candidates, qualified candidates on the local list, people who are looking for a job, who got high marks on the test, that are qualified to take the job, and I believe we should go with the people who are on the list. People who are looking for a job, not people who already have a job. And I don't think it's going to be any kind of a savings. They're coming in at the first rung in the pay scale. That's probationary firefighters, and they will be available by the time the summer vacations roll around. They will be back in the department and be able to cover those positions. So I'm voting no.
Thank you, Paul. Commissioner
Thank you,
Carlo.
I vote no.
Commissioner Rabin.
Just before I vote, I just want to we're not voting to hire a firefighter in order to cover summer vacations. Is that correct?
No, but I think the argument is that by transferring in, they will be able to go on the line immediately, and so that by the summertime, when people are on vacation in the department, that they're going to cover those slots. But the people who, if we would hire new firefighters, they're in the academy, they'll be back by the time the summer vacations roll around, and they will be able to cover most of the overtime that would result if we were not to hire anybody.
You can't predict that, though. You just don't know what's going to happen.
And I mean, we don't really have to belabor the point, but the idea of hiring firefighters is, my understanding, is to be available to serve the public as quickly as possible. We would like that, of course, to be. If we hire someone from the academy now, and we're not even quite sure we even necessarily, maybe need to hire because we're only down 2 short, but we're thinking of this as a way to kind of bridge the gap between now and maybe a fall academy, if that happens or whatever, and we may lose additional firemen. they're going to not serve the residents of Eastchester until July. Whereas, and that's basically right around the time.
That's maybe.
Summer vacations, right? Yeah, that's a maybe. Who
that's
knows?
Maybe, right.
But exactly. If we transfer somebody in now, they could be serving the people of Eastchester by March. So that's kind of just the way I'm ticking at it. If the department thinks that it needs, one extra firefighter or two extra firefighters, I would think the public would be more appreciative if that firefighter was to start sooner, if we have the capacity to do it. So that's why I'm voting yes, to see if this is a process that is going to be beneficial. And if we're wrong and it's not the end of the world. Like Paul says, there's plenty of candidates on that list who have grades, and that list is not expiring within this year. So
exactly right, Stu.
That's fine with me. So I will vote yes.
And the Commissioner Roach will vote yes to seek an active firefighter to transfer into the Eastchester Fire Department. I have to abstain from hiring off the list, so this is an easier one for me. It's the only way I can actually get a firefighter into the Eastchester Fire Department. So we haven't hired anyone. We're just going to do an interview process. Who's going to take care of that, to put that together?
Well, Tom, you have to let me vote too, and I'm voting yes.
Oh.
You're so excited. You were so excited to vote yes. You forgot.
No, actually, you already voted yes. Carlo voted no. Raven voted yes. I voted yes.
I would say this has to be treated just like any other hiring. I guess we're going to lean on Jamie a little bit to do all that, and then we'll have to have an interview day, a day of interviews, and the commissioners will have to do their best, I guess, to schedule their own personal schedules around an interview date. And I guess we'll lean on Jamie and the chief to do that.
Yeah, I'll make myself available, for sure.
All right, good. So the chief's report?
Thank you, Commissioner. Just one question on that. Would the transfer be coming in at starting pay, or would there be, if they had 5 years experience, would there be a different pay?
We don't know what we have. We don't know what we have, Chief.
So that won't be included in the advertisement?
We don't know. We don't.
Brian, to be fair, yes. If somebody who is coming in as a transfer will have to transfer in at the bottom rung, just like we've done for all other people who have come in. We have to do it that way. That's the rule. We can't pay somebody more. They're a first-time employee in the Eastchester Fire District. It has to follow the CDA.
Okay, thank you.
They're a first-time firefighter for us, which means they're step one. That's the way it works. And that's what's happened with other people who have transferred in, who have been police officers, and even though they came off the list, they took a salary reduction in order to start at step one. We have to keep it consistent.
Stu,
that's how it works.
Stu, that is a great point. So why don't we interview at least the two potential transferees, because they're coming in at the salary of the lowest tier. The district doesn't put itself, you can only gain. So if you're thinking about potentially hiring somebody, even if it doesn't work in July, there's no reason that we shouldn't interview for the two spots, the two attrition spots.
Well, you can interview for two spots, and they're both firefighters, and the board could reconvene and say, we want to hire two people, and they can vote to hire both people. We could advertise for one spot, and if we find that we want to fill the second one, the board could totally do that. The difference is just the title. We'd be interviewing for firefighter, not lieutenant.
Right. So why don't we interview for two firefighters and see what?
As many as you want. We just have a certain number of spaces that are within the district that are open that we don't have to call civil service to say we want to call.
No, those two spots spots that opened up. In all fairness,
a different motion. You'd have to make a second motion now.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, Stu.
You can amend the previous motion and say, I'd like to amend the motion and have it that the district is going to interview for two open slots.
Fine. Why don't we do that? Tom, I'm going to amend my motion and look to hire for transferees for 2 as opposed to 1.
Will someone second that motion?
Sure, I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion. Will everyone understand the motion? It's identical to what we did. We're just putting an advertisement out there to see if any firefighters want to transfer in to Eastchester Fire Department at the first basic pay rate. And Commissioner Ranalone.
No.
Commissioner Keating.
Yes.
Commissioner Carlo.
No.
Commissioner Rabin.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Roach is a yes. All right, so motion passes. So instead of 1, it's we're seeking 2 positions. Again, we haven't hired anyone. We have to first agree. 3 commissioners the majority of the board have to agree to hire after the interviews, just so the public understands. Are we good?
Yeah, we can move on to the chief report.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, I apologize for not being on camera. I'm trying not to create feedback since I'm on the phone and it's recording off my laptop.
We want to give you feedback, Chief.
So the January 2021 alarm activity was 262 alarms. 7 were fire-related. EMS rescue 132. A busy month for giving mutual aid 3 times for Mount Vernon. 3, I think third or fourth alarm fires in Yonkers, and 2 mutual aid requests in New Rochelle. We received mutual aid one time for a garden apartment fire on Field End Lane. I want to tell Captain Calby and members of Group 3 did an excellent job knocking down that fire very quickly. I want to say the residents had working smoke detectors, and it allowed everybody to get out of the apartment safely. There was some smoke inhalation to one or two of the residents, but they were woken up, and everybody was able to get out of the building, and there was no fatalities. It was early in the morning, and so that's always a tragedy when you find non-working smoke detectors and somebody gets injured. So there was an excellent stop by the members of Group 3 and Captain Calby. We had a virtual safety committee meeting as per the CEA held on Thursday, February 4th. Commissioner Roche, Commissioner Ranalone, and myself met with the members of the local 916 Health and Safety Committee. The first major concern they brought up was an ongoing sewer backup at the North End Firehouse. The most recent incident of that was around Christmas time in December. A temporary solution was discussed of possibly having the line snaked out on a quarterly basis every 3 months. It seems to happen every 4 to 6 months. So if we get ahead of it, we don't have to worry about sewage coming in the basement and having a health and safety issue. While a more permanent fix of digging up and replacing the sewer line can be considered by the board. When Tim got a quote, just a ballpark quote from one of the contractors, between digging up and replacing the sewer line all the way from the back of the firehouse out to the street, it was just a ballpark figure of $150,000. So obviously we'd have to hire engineers, go out for bid, so that's not a quick solution. A second issue was firefighters would like a second set of turnout gear. Right now, we replace the gear every 5 years. The gear is allowed to be used for 10 years. After the fifth year, and they get their new gear, it goes down to the Bronxville Firehouse as spare gear. So when we have new hires, they can go get spare gear. And when we have people whose gear has to go out for repair, or if they have a fire and they have to wash their gear, they can go to Bronxville to get a set of gear. But it doesn't always fit them because it could be somebody else's. A discussion was made that we could start replacing the gear after every 4 years. So their first set would be for year 1 to 4. Their backup set could be year 5 to 8. And then the 9th and 10th year, the gear could go down to Bronxville and be spare gear for if somebody was new hired, we would have a certain supply of gear for people to be issued gear. But that would be a budget. We would have to add probably 4 or 5 sets of gear every year at about $2,500 a set. So it'd be, $10,000 addition to the turnout gear line. So we said we would consider that
for the
for the
2022 budget in September,
and
when
when
the budget's passed in October.
And also, another thing was the replacement of the shop garage door. It was damaged a few months ago. It was a temporary repair made, but it needs to be updated with a safety eye, and the panels that were damaged should be replaced. It was about a $13,000 estimate from one contractor, and I was advised to get more estimates so the board can consider that. There was also a mention of a fitness program where we could have people, individual members, counseled on fitness. That's something that the board can discuss. That wasn't resolved. It was a good idea, but we didn't agree to anything, obviously. Also having a spare apparatus fully stocked with equipment, which that's being done by Captain DiMatteo as we speak. Maintenance report by Tim Dalton was forwarded to the board, emailed to the board. At an earlier meeting with Commissioner Keating and Commissioner Roche, when we sat down with UES Engineering, we were discussing the floor in Chester Heights. We discussed when the rigs have snow change and it tears up the concrete floor. So we had Tuckahoe floor done years ago, and they got rubber mats, quarter-inch rubber mats, or neoprene mats when we're using snow change to protect the floors. So it was suggested to do the engine side and the shop floor. So Tim got an estimate of about $2,000 and change to get the mats for the shop floor and the Tuckahoe engine bay. The easiest way to pay for it is on the department credit card. So I'm asking for permission to use the department credit card to spend a little over $2,000. But I need authorization to do that. I'm only authorized to spend $1,000. So I'm asking for authorization to spend, the estimate was $2,071, but it says it is an estimate, so it could be slightly higher. So I'm asking permission to spend up to $2,500. We have three quotes. I'll use the lowest quote, whichever one it turns out to be. Vehicle maintenance continues through using outside vendors. During the snowstorm, or actually the day after on Tuesday, engine 27 was damaged by an Eastchester snowplow. It knocked off a door handle. It bent some bars on it and slightly damaged the body. It's going up this coming week up to Firematic to get an estimate on the damage. Police report was done, and we've spoken to the town highway department, and when we get an estimate, we'll forward it to the Eastchester Law Department, and we're handling it that way. Our insurance is involved, their insurance company will be involved. And also ladder 16 on the same day damaged the car. I believe their tire hit a bumper and cracked the bumper of a vehicle that was in the snow. The roads are extremely narrow, as you can notice with all the snow we had on Monday. It's barely enough room for one car to get by, and two, it makes it extremely tough. So that's why these vehicles were damaged. So our insurance company was notified. Tuckahoe police are filling out a report, and we're handling that issue with the vehicle that we damaged. Engine 29 went back to the factory for a frame repair. That one's back in service in Bronxville. And engine 27 was having issues with turbo. That was also repaired by Firematic, and both apparatus have been back in service. Fire prevention, code enforcement activities. Their report has been forwarded to the board this morning. Currently, three members are out on long-term absence. One member continues to work on restricted duty. Firefighter Dominic DiRienzo has requested that the district pay for arborist rescue class being held in Connecticut. I forwarded the board his request with a description of the course. Just to say firefighter G. Rienzo provides technical rescue training to our members. He also does training with New York State Office of Fire Prevention. And I feel it would be benefit to the district. He'll bring his knowledge back to the district to train our members. He's not asking for time off. He's on his vacation. He's just asking for the department to pay $450 to pay for the class registration. So I'll leave that to the board. A few years ago, there was a decision by the board that any out-of-state training would have to be approved ahead of time by the board. So I ask that you consider that. And as far as the upgraded Wi-Fi and technology for fire headquarters, Sullivan Data has been taken over by a company called Logically. So there was a slight delay on ordering equipment and having it installed. I've been in touch with them. They're going to order the equipment this week. When it comes in, they're going to install the Wi-Fi access points and the firewalls and all the equipment that was in the proposal that was approved, I believe, 2 months ago by the board. And that's the end of my report, unless anybody has any questions.
I have a couple questions. Chief, are they honoring, do we have a contract with Sullivan?
We do, yes. They're honoring it at the price it was signed off on.
Good.
Sullivan Data is still involved, but only as a consultant now on the project. The work will be done by the Logically company, the company called Logically.
Right, okay, great. The sewer line on the north end, wasn't that done recently?
Yeah, I mentioned it was done at Christmas time. We had a blockage. I had asked to be able to do it, and I guess the cost was objected to by the commissioners. So now I only do it when it gets clogged, but then the basement gets sewage, and so it's an issue. I'm asking to be able to do it every 3 months so we can avoid having sewage in the basement.
Right. No, my question, I thought it was constructed. I thought the construction that was done on that recently.
I think probably 8 years ago. I don't know if I would consider that recently.
Right.
Well, let me just say that I do remember that meeting. We had that meeting in Bronxville, and I remember being vocal that I felt that it was a worthwhile pursuit to at least get a proposal and an engineer's report about making that repair. There's absolutely no excuse why we want to have sewage backing up into the basement of that firehouse.
Right.
Nobody on this board was on the board at the time in which those repairs were being made. Some members were at the time when the first discussion came up. And I can tell you right now that if the board decides that they want to invest some money into fixing that sewage line and that sanitary sewer line in that fire department, I will support that. It's not okay for us to be having this type of budget and that kind of issues happening in buildings. That's just my opinion.
I totally agree with you, Stu. Chief, is there a potential for us using the insurance company for this? Did we look into that?
We looked into the insurance for the damage, not for going after improper construction. I believe Commissioner Rose who would have done inspections, and I could only answer, I would assume, the town building department at the time we discussed it prior. As far as the insurance company, we can have Jamie call them and say, hey, we believe that this sewer line was installed improperly with not enough pitch. But I don't know that that's something insurance would cover.
Yeah, there's a file at the town of Eastchester Building Department for the North End Firehouse that has all the inspection paperwork and blueprints for this house, because I went to go look at it. The questionability is, and that's, again, it's something for Eastchester Building and Planning to explore and comment on for us. I'm not quite sure. As you know, there was a very drawn out process for that building.
No, I was just really more asking with regard to, as things, it could have gone in correctly. I just don't know. The issue is,
I don't know for sure if that was even worked on.
Right. That's the other thing. So the
part of the scope of work.
Right. So the question, I'm really just asking if we are covered, just like any other a homeowner is for their homeowner's insurance. Are we covered with respect?
But
So we should look at that and just see if.
I would say this.
And we should get it fixed.
Our sewer line is most likely our responsibility because it's a lateral. It's not a main. So we are tying into the town's main sewer line, which would be the town's responsibility. But the laterals, just like any homeowner, is their responsibility. So this will most likely be a district cost. Insurance may help, but it's going to be us if it's a lateral issue.
Right. We should look into it, and then we should get it fixed. We shouldn't be just keep band-aiding
Agreed.
this. Yeah, definitely.
I think the first step might be that the board decides that we want to reach out to the relevant contact in the sewer department and have them research. I mean, at the health and safety meeting, I think it was brought up that people thought it was a local issue, not necessarily a house issue. I don't know if that's the case or not.
Chief I'm sorry, Tom, but Chief, has the line been cameraed?
Yes, twice. We had a camera. They said that there's a dip in the driveway. So I don't know if something settled after construction. They didn't replace the sewer line from the foundation wall out to the main sewer line. So the line going from the foundation wall out to the sewer main has been there as long as the firehouse. The line that was replaced inside the firehouse goes about 50 or 70 feet to the back trunk line, the main stack that goes up to the attic for the vent, and it was replaced forward. So I would estimate it was about 60 or 75 feet that was replaced inside. So part of the complaint is that doesn't have enough pitch. The other problem is going from the foundation wall out, there's a restaurant 2 doors up from the uphill from the firehouse. I don't know this to be true. Some of the firemen that work there think that possibly grease from that is backing up into our line and causing part of the issue in the driveway. I don't know. All I know is that when they come to jet it, we did have it camera, and I can make that available to the commissioners. I don't know what we're going to see other than what they reported, that there's a dip out in the driveway, and that's also part of the problem.
I mean, just a couple of comments to that. One is just on the surface. We've got very heavy fire trucks over the years going over that driveway. There's a very good possibility that the impact of that weight has slowly made that pipe dip in the ground versus staying stagnant at the pitch that it was originally. As far as grease, if it was coming from the restaurant two stops up and there was grease coming down, that would be very difficult if it wasn't already affecting the main, because they'll be going out into the main line on their own line, and it would be affecting, they'll have their own lateral into the main, which would be affecting the main sewage line for the town. So unless we know that there's been other issues there, I don't know how fruitful that'll be, but my suggestion to the board is we can take care of this pretty quickly. We could do a very quick down and dirty request for proposal. We could make the video from the camera company available to anybody who wants a copy of it. We can burn it onto a CD or put it on a USB thumb drive, or just email it out to whoever requests it. And we can get a proposal in from a engineering company to take a look and give us the proper readout about what it'll actually cost and what it'll be. And who knows, they may also be able to help us and see if there's any grants out there for this type of work, because it would be an upgrade to the sanitary and storm sewer lines. And New York State's very big of giving out grants for people who are upgrading their storm and sewer lines.
Good point, Stu. Good point.
So how do we move forward?
We don't need a motion from the board, as always. I can do an RFP for that, and I could try and get it to the board before the next meeting, and we can just, send it out regardless if the board feels like they want to move in that direction. It costs us nothing except for the advertisement in the newspaper, and we can see if we get any responses back before the next meeting, and then they can arrange to meet with Tim or the chief or both people and get a shot at looking at it, and they can give us a proposal.
I agree with that, Stu.
We're not spending the money now. We're just making preparations to eventually partition the money to spend it.
Right.
Well, thank you, Stu. So we don't even need to vote on that. You're just going to put that out?
Yeah, like I did with the others that everybody got for electrical, HVAC, and plumbing. We can send those out, and the only vote will be if and when the board chooses to award it.
Perfect. So, Jamie, when Stu gets that, you'll do whatever needs to be done to advertise that?
Yep, no problem.
And Chief, in the meantime, would you contact the sewer department to find out if there is any validity to that thought, and see if there was any other complaints in that area from other residents? And if there are, then ask the sewer department to see what they can do to clear that area out. And if there have been no other complaints, we'll have to assume, like Stu said, it's us, and we're responsible for it, and we'll have to get it fixed this year.
Yes, Commissioner, no problem. Restaurants are supposed to have grease traps. They're not supposed to have grease going out into the sewer. So it may have been a problem from long ago, so we'll contact the highway department when we're finding out about the repairs to our engine 27. I'll make sure I touch base with them on the sewer line at Wilmot Road and see if there's a history of clogs up there.
Perfect, Chief.
We inspect to see if the needed grease trap is actually in place?
Yeah, that would be a building department issue. I mean, we can ask the building department, if we want to make a complaint, we can ask the building department to look into it.
Okay.
Chief, I'd like to make a motion to approve the mats for the firehouses. They're great items. They'll save us money, particularly in a place like Chester Heights when you're doing a brand new floor, so that the residents should know when you're going out, it's not, you can't do anything about this. You're driving out, there's salt, that gets caught in the wheels. It sits there, and no matter how hard you try, there's still some residue that gets caught. And everybody knows what happens when salt hits cement. It completely breaks it down. So I want to make a motion to approve purchasing of the mats for you.
So you'll authorize me to use the company credit card for up to $2,500?
That's my motion, correct.
Okay. I'll second his motion to permit the breaking of the threshold and the purchase.
Very good. So we have that motion for the chief to go out and buy mats for Station 4. I think it's
Station 2 engine bay and headquarters the shop.
Very good. And the reason why I said I was thinking Station 4 is, of course, when we get this new floor done, you will do that for the Station 4 coming.
Correct.
Fall.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we have the resolution for him to go out and oversee the credit card balance to do mats, and for him also to get them for all the firehouses that need them in the future. It was made by Commissioner Keating, second by Commissioner Rabin. Commissioner Ranalone.
Aye.
Commissioner Keating.
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin.
Aye.
And Commissioner Roach is an aye. So the mats have been is resolved. It's been passed. You go forward with that. Any other things that we want to talk about amongst Chief's report?
Just Dominic DiRienzo, firefighter DiRienzo, the arborist course.
And the recent rescuer of the Siberian, I think, I may be misspeaking here, but may have been a Siberian husky.
Yes, it was appropriate out on the ice. If it was a husky.
That's right. Which was amazing, seeing that dog's life.
And there was two things that you mentioned in this request. The first one, I don't recall that we ever voted that you couldn't do out of state. Did we do that?
Yeah, it went back to when Captain Stupple and Captain Dempsey were putting in for the FDIC.
Yeah, I don't need the background. I just need, was there actually a vote taken saying that you couldn't go out of state?
There was, Tom. The vote was taken in 2019, I believe.
Okay, very good. Now, we all know that the National Fire Academy is in Maryland. It's out of state. So I would like to deal with that first. If we have placed an impediment on the chief to send his members to training because they're restricted to New York State only schools, I think we're we're doing ourselves a disfavor. So I would like to make a motion to reverse that, and that, of course, the chief will bring any requests to us, and we also encourage all the members to go out and take advantage of this training. I believe there's at least $5,000 in the budget for members to use to further their education and to help the citizens of Eastchester. So I would say that any certified institute giving fire protection courses should be allowed to be used by our members. Could I have a second?
Tom, before you, I just want to comment. I'm not sure what I would say. My preference would be to table this for now. I don't know anything about it, so before I make a no vote or even a yes vote, I think it would be prudent just to look at the reasons why in 2019 the board voted to make sure they got approval first. I think it's a prudent.
Executive session talk. We can talk about that very quickly. You'll understand. All right, so we'll table that part. You're absolutely right. We don't need to change what was voted on before. Oh, yes, we do, because otherwise we can't award this contract. And this contract is for April.
The training.
The training, yeah.
We can award the training.
No, it's out of state. If we voted that we, unless we can vote just to overstep what we previous voted just this time.
Absolutely, we can vote for this right now. It's not a precedent-setting vote. It's the board's, board's action. You can certainly vote to allow for this training if the board wants to.
Are we talking about Dominic's training?
I believe
Right.
so.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, I get it. I think Stu's right. I think you could do it individually because the board does have the power to vote on it, right? I'm just saying not to reverse it, but to reverse it in this one instance, right? I think Stu's right.
All right, is that satisfactory to you, Chief, that we just reverse it on individual cases?
Yeah, that's fine. It's not a prohibition on training out of state. It's that the department will pay for training out of state. When people go to the National Fire Academy, if they just go for a one-day class, there's usually no cost. If they want to spend overnight, then there's hotels possibly. So this training, the actual registration, I believe, is $450. I sent out the information, I think, 5 days ago or so, maybe Monday. And so, yeah, so this one you could do a one-time, allowance, and then, if you want to change the policy going forward, you could talk about that at a later date.
And just to put a little bit more out there, which is for public information, obviously, it's not private. Part of the board's thinking at that time, it was not pushed by, but it was pushed by other people, was that we would generally see the bill for this out-of-state training after it was already completed when it was looking for reimbursement. And I think it was more so of asking for that request to be proactive rather than reactive to already paid bills. So the firefighters would pay for everything and then ask to be reimbursed after the fact. And the board was looking for that to be approved as a proactive measure rather than a reactive one. I don't think it was to stop people from going for training.
As Commissioner Roche said, there is a budget line for training. And normally the chief would, I've gone personally myself to out-of-state training in New Jersey, they had FDIC hands-on training. And Chief Grogan approved it, and, I was reimbursed. So this was specifically, the board wanted to be able to say whether or not the training was approved. So if somebody wanted to go to training up in Montour Falls, that's in New York State, I could tell them if there was a cost, like, room and board, if there was a cost, I can approve it. And then it would be, it would come up under the monthly warrant. Just like anything, I should have a certain amount of money that I can spend. If there's $100 fee for, food, room and board, I should be able to approve that. If you want every request for training to come to the board, then that's fine. But
no, I think you're right on that. I think part of the issue was that some people on the board felt very, let's say, passionately that out-of-state training that was approved what needed to be by the chief should have gone before the board, regardless of whether or not I personally feel that way. That is what the narrative was, and if the board would like to move to alter this in the future, we'll have the discussion. But for this topic right now, I'll, whatever the board wants to do, can approve this one training by itself. Sure.
My only, Stu, I think it's good for the guys to get as much training as possible, particularly where it can help. And someone like Dominic, who the question, Chief, is that we're not sending Dominic up with the pandemic at the rates that it is.
I mean, I'm sure they'll have COVID precautions, just like any other training, just like the fire academy did. I would assume it's going to be, the training is going to be handled safely. I'm not going, so I'm not exactly sure, but I would assume Dominic's a smart guy, that he wouldn't participate if he felt it was unsafe.
Great. Okay, that's all. Just want everybody to be safe.
All right, so did we make a resolution, have a second?
Second.
We didn't make.
I didn't hear what you said, Brian.
No, I don't think we voted to do it, but that's fine. So be it. I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, so in this one particular case, the board is going to take a vote to approve the training out of state in this one case. And again, I'll make the statement, we encourage all members to investigate training opportunities that would interest them and to further their education and ability to serve the citizens of Eastchester. And the money is in the budget for them. We would prefer that everybody sharing it, not just one or two guys, but obviously whoever comes, we'll try to address it on a case-by-case scenario. So I will second that motion, and I'll call the roll. Commissioner Ranalone.
Aye.
Commissioner Keating.
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin.
Fine.
Commissioner Roach is an aye, so the resolution passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We got that. We're going to contact the sewer department to see what that is. We'll eventually get an RFP out to get somebody to give us an estimate on the work. And we thanked him for his work and his painting and everything that he did this week.
Beautiful paint job. Beautiful paint job by Tim this week.
He's working hard.
Beautiful.
And
really nice.
One thing I neglected to mention, I think, if we could just ask the residents to help us with clearing the hydrants if they're on their property. With the snowstorm we had, 16, 18 inches. We send the members out, but I don't think they can hit every single hydrant, and we're supposed to get more snow tomorrow, I think another 4 to 8 inches. So if anybody has a hydrant on their property, sometimes people hire plows, and they come and they're like, oh, there's no cars parked there, let's pile all the snow in front of the fire hydrant. So if we could just ask the public's help in helping keeping the hydrants clear, it benefits everybody if there's a fire because it doesn't delay getting water.
And that includes the commissioners, like myself. I did mine, Chief.
Thank you.
And I did see the members out shoveling after the snowstorm when the weather got better. They were able to clear a lot of the hydrants. We were very fortunate. After the last storm, we did have calm weather and the temperatures weren't freezing, so it was easy to move the snow around. After Sunday's storm and Monday's storm, we're supposed to have sub-zero temperatures. It's supposed to get into the teens, and then it's going to get the wind chills. That'll all freeze and be a lot harder to move afterwards. So yes, we ask all neighbors and citizens with hydrants in front of their house. They're protecting their own property when they make access to that available to the fire department. So thank you for that mention, Chief. You are correct. Anything else? Any comments?
Commissioners, excuse me. I believe the chief is still going to be looking for a direction as far as what to do with the waistline at the Station 5. If he can continue with the preventative maintenance program of doing it once every, a few weeks or a couple of months?
About every 3 months. I was looking to do it. Right now, we're only doing it as needed.
I would rather go to the preventive side rather than waiting for it to happen, because even if we do replace the sewer line, that's going to take a while, and it may happen again before that gets done. So I'd like to see the preventive maintenance done on it as well.
Chief, do you have a timing on what the frequency has been on the need basis?
4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months.
Every 4 to 6 months we're having a blockage, it seems like. I would have to double check with Jamie on the invoices, but that would just be a ballpark number.
Right,
So very good point. We did talk about this fact that we're going to put an RFP out, and that'll take a month to do. And if the last one was December, March or April is the crystal ball's expectation. So you said you did get the reduction in price. It's under $1,000 if they do it once. If they have to go from both ends, it could be just slightly under $2,000. Correct?
Well, the last blockage was $1,800 in December. So I'm not sure if they had to go both ways or just out one way. I know previously it had been as high as $2,400. I assume it depends on how long they're there clearing the blockage. So if we do it on a preventative thing, I would assume it would take less time because there's not a blockage. They just have to run the sewer jet out to the street.
And you're going to the same person every time.
I believe Tim has been using the same company.
Yeah. So it seems if we're going to do this, and we're going to think about doing this for a continual amount of time until it gets fixed, I think how quick can an RFP be done for that so we can get 3 people to bid on it, and at least we're giving the district the very best price if we're going to be doing this 4 times a year. Because that is $8,000 a year. So if we could get it down to $6,000 a year, that's save the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves.
If I can interrupt, you have before you an RFP for plumbing and maintenance services, and you got a sewer pipe. So
thank you, Stu. So we already have it done. Brian, can you send it out tomorrow?
Yeah, the RFP is set to be noticed for February 12th, with it being live on February 15th, and for people to have their submissions returned to us by March 5th. The district will be able to accept more than one proposal, so you could always have more than one plumber. We have a couple that we've been using now. There's no reason why, as part of the plumber regular services, is maintenance and clearance of pipes, and obviously a capital project, that's what your sewer line would be. But regular maintenance of your sewer and wastewater lines within the building, as well as sinks and everything else, can all be included in services that the board can approve through a vendor. So my suggestion would be to get that RFP in front of people that we know do these services as part of plumbing services, and get some kind of response back. And we don't have to worry about it.
And change the dates. Make the date February 8th, February 10th, and whatever, February 27th. Just make it 2 weeks earlier, and this way it happens before the quarter.
But in the meantime, the board I think the board should just go ahead right now. They're already doing it. We're already doing it. So just call whoever we need to clean out the pipe right now, and just have them come and do it. We have our RFP that's going to be available. In the meantime, if we have a regular vendor that we've been using, just call them and have them come in.
Chief, when was the last time we cleaned it?
I think Christmas Eve.
All right, so we have Stu's right. We have Stu's got this. Thank you, Stu, for the RFP. Stu's you got it, Stu. The timing is such that you may not even need to make that call anymore, because it may be reconciled before the next, which would be sometime in April or May.
Have we been using a specialized vendor for that, Chief, or it's just a regular plumber?
It's a jet sewer company, and it's prevailing wage. It's not just like Roto-Rooter. It's kind of specialty. They come with their jet truck, kind of like what the highway department has. When they get a clog in the streets, they have that thing that sprays high-pressure water to clear the clogs, as opposed to just a like rotary snake that they would put out.
Yep.
And Chief,
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brian. You know, we purchase our fuel from the town and we get a great deal on it. We're paying a great discount. Is it possible that that service could be provided to us from the town and we purchase it from them?
I know that their sewer truck is, it's maybe designed for manholes. I don't know if they could run it down into a basement and provide the same service. We would have to see their capabilities.
The Vector trucks are for to be out in the street. They go through the sewer manholes. They don't clean laterals. They jet mains.
Very good. Okay.
But there's absolutely no reason why I see right now that we shouldn't just get this company in here, clean it, and then move on. I just get them in here and do it.
Well, he just did it. To the point, I think the only hindrance to that would be actually fixing it prior to the next time it needs to be cleaned.
Yeah, I think what we could do is I've sent you the I'll make an adjustment. I'll make an adjustment and I'll resend that.
Okay, and thank you for doing it.
And Brian or Jamie, you'll make sure that RFP gets out to 4 or 5, hopefully a dozen people that offer these services, and then they can start offering us bids to do this continual contract until fixed.
I thought our attorney said that we can't target specific vendors. We have to put it on websites that they would be prone to look at. If we, because I think it happened with the Chester Heights, we couldn't target specific vendors. I believe anybody can correct me, but I think Nathan said we're not supposed to do that.
Chief, as long as it's advertised in the newspaper, which it will be, and it's at public notice, because there's a public notice attached to everything, you can send that RFP to as many vendors as you like directly.
Okay.
As long as you're publicly noticing it, which we are.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on sending that out?
No.
All right.
We just have to vote on approving it, on awarding it. That's what we have to approve. The award.
Once the bids come back. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Awesome. You'll take care of that, Chief?
Jamie and I'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So next on the agenda, Paul started, but he got interrupted. PT program for new hirees.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that. If it can be worked out with the union about how we want to do it. Right now, I know Hartsdale has a PT program, which happens to be run by one of their captains who is a fitness trainer. And my idea is to have a nutritionist come in, talk to all the members about proper eating habits and that kind of stuff, have a physical fitness trainer come in and, show the guys, the personnel, what type of physical training they should be doing, whether it be walking, running, weights, and how they should be doing it. But again, I believe that's going to have to be worked out with the union as far as, which I would make it mandatory for any new hires and optional for, the personnel that's already here. So, like I said, if we can work something out with the union, I think it would be a great thing for the health and safety of the members. It'll certainly cut down on, heart disease and other type illnesses, and possibly even cut down on the number of injuries that the guys get at alarms or even in the firehouse.
Paul, is there a fitness requirement? Are you thinking that there should be a fitness requirement attached to this?
I believe NFPA or one of those other regulatory agencies has fitness requirements for firefighters as a standard of working. I'm not sure what it is or even how to access it, but it would be along those lines.
One of the members of the Health and Safety Committee stated that they thought, an annual pass to the CPAT test. The county gives the certified physical agility test to certify that the people that have passed the written exam are physically capable of doing the job of firefighter. So if that's what they determine is a good determination of how fit a person is, it would make it sense that it's set for firefighting abilities. So maybe that would be the standard we'd have.
Yeah.
Another thing that we discussed at the Safety and Health Committee was that the members, we have a restriction on their use of free weights, and they would like us to amend that policy for them. I thought the policy was set by PERB and thought it was going to be more difficult, but the chief reminded us that no, PERB sent it back to the union and the district to work out a policy. So it was technically an in-house policy that we put into place.
Right. Jen, I'm sorry, Tom, if I can. This, believe it or not, this is an executive session topic that we need to discuss.
Thank you.
And it requires, we probably need to contact, we're going to discuss this today, then somebody needs to get Paul Sweeney on the phone, because there's a lot of layers to this that should not be done in public. Just as the chief had mentioned earlier about some other things, this is an executive session discussion, and the board needs to protect itself and do that there first. Just putting it out there, the board can do what it wants, but I'm not commenting on this as is. That's really the way it's supposed to go.
And I'm going to table it right now unless someone else has a comment. Very good. So the chief mentioned in his report that the district is working on fully equipping reserve apparatus for immediate deployment. And I think that's very important. Anytime we have a fire or a serious emergency, we recall our firefighters. Yes, some of those firefighters will take a van or other transport up to the fire scene to work at the current fire, and others will station in the firehouses as a reserve in case there's another alarm or major fire. And in those cases, if all our active apparatus are up at the fire working, we need other apparatus that can go out immediately, fully equipped, and capable of, engaging a second emergency. So I appreciate doing that. If anyone else has any other comments, I'm open to the board for the public. No, so we'll put that. Thank the captain for continuing that work, Chief.
I will. Captain DiBitetto is working on that. Yes.
And you also mentioned about the issuing of second set of turnout gear. We can continue that conversation in executive session also. We have a discussion of a legal counsel fire district secretary position. Does anyone want to comment on that? I know that Jamie had put an advertisement together, and I thought it was very well done. And I would like for that to go out and advertise for that position.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Tom. It's I think this has been bandied about in multiple meetings, so I think that's right. And we'll look to, and you've already budgeted for this position well over, I think, 2 years ago. So yes, agreement with you. And we didn't have a secretary for a whole year, and secretary attorney is a great idea.
So yes. What steps forward do you believe?
We have to advertise for the position and then hire someone.
Okay, perfect. So should we just put it on the local sites like we did in the springtime again?
We could figure that out. We can figure all that as we would advertise for any other job.
So this is Jamie. I would just ask then, if you're having an executive session today, if the board could just come to agreement on the job posting itself, as well as there were, because again, I put it together based on what was available on the county website, and what we had historically proposed for the secretary to board of fire commissioners. There were also specific items in yellow that I could not fill in, that the board would need to fill in, and then Paul Sweeney, our outside counsel, recommended we run it by him just to make sure from a civil service perspective and like EEOC, all those, that we have everything worded correctly. So I would just need basically something back from the board saying, yes, this is good to go, and I can run it by Paul.
And some of those things that you saw in yellow could be generalized because we might not have a specific answer. Is that true? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Very good. All right. So there was one thing that I skipped over with the chief's report. I'd like to go back to that. Unless after executive session when we discuss those things, I will get back to you. Okay, Jamie?
Yeah, sure.
And I think this is a very important thing that we need to discuss now. I don't know if it's an executive session or it's an open session, but we need to determine fire protection during the Chester Heights apparatus floor repair. If everything goes correctly, the permissive referendum goes through without a hitch. Our next month's meeting will be able to vote on awarding the contract, and then the work should begin hopefully within a week. And so we're talking about March. We're 5 weeks away, 4 or 5 weeks away from knowing how we're going to provide fire protection in Chester Heights. Any commissioners or the chief want to make a comment?
This is the chief. I'll mention that Commissioner Keating and I believe it was in December, went down to the Historical Society, the Marble Schoolhouse. They have a meeting room that would be available if we wanted to maintain a presence down in Chester Heights. The only issue was if we were going to be doing construction in January and February, we would not be able to leave the apparatus outside in the parking lot during the inclement cold weather due to freezing. If we're going to start in March, and we're talking about March, April, maybe at night the rig can be left outside. If it's above freezing, if it's below freezing, perhaps the members can be riding in a suburban type vehicle, the spare captain's car, and they could respond in that to medical emergencies and fires. I've also been in discussions with the chief from Pelham. If we had a recorded fire or multiple calls for a fire, their engine could respond to the Chester Heights area simultaneous with our apparatus to add additional personnel as a quick response. And if there was a time where the weather was so cold, where even a suburban being outside, if the windows are iced up and they have to let it warm up for 5 minutes before they can drive, we may have to relocate them to Tuckahoe Bronxville Firehouse only during extreme low temperatures where we couldn't even leave a suburban outside for it to be used right away. So that was my plan, and I discussed it with Commissioner Keating a month or two ago when it looked like we were going to be doing the floor sooner. We just had to get permission from the town, from the Historical Society, but we've had preliminary negotiations with them. So if we want to move forward with those, if those are acceptable to the board, I can move forward. Again, we would also have to ask permission from the town of Pelham to allow their fire truck to respond to Chester Heights. So, I can get all that done before we start construction, if that's acceptable to the board, but that was my plan for protection in Chester Heights during construction.
I think the residents would be happy that the fire department is still remaining there during the construction, however long it'll be. That's my thought.
And it sounds like a good plan that you took in all the things that could possibly happen. And yes, Stu?
Oh, nothing. No, sorry.
Oh. So I'm in agreement. I think that when weather available, if we can have the apparatus parked on in the historical site area and they can use that building, I would tell them, reach out to them and think that it'll be the first week of March. And then, I don't know how long it takes Westchester Dispatch to include Pelham engine in any run in that Chester Heights area. But if it takes 2 or 3 weeks, I would say let's set that up in advance, so that we're not doing it the day before, and then for the first 2 weeks we don't even have that in operation.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I believe they're dispatched by Westchester County, so I believe that could be done quickly. The only thing is to get the agreement through Pelham, because I don't know how often their village board meets. We would have to have the radios moved from the Chester Heights Firehouse to, so there's some infrastructure things, to get internet for the guys in the Marble Schoolhouse conference room or meeting room area. So there's a couple things that we've done, but I think if we're going to be starting in March, that we'll be able to accomplish it all.
Chief, with respect to the internet, do you know how many books are there for them to, historical books for them to read? I'm partial. I was a history major, so
there were
quite a few books there. Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah.
Please keep us informed as you go through those steps. Just send an email to the board. I've done this, I've done that. This is where we're at.
I will keep the board updated.
Thank you. The next thing is I want to make a statement to Local 916 that buyouts are no longer in a consideration, that the time has passed. I think that Stu eloquently explained that last meeting, but they asked for a clarification, so I'm just making that clarification. So it's time for commissioners' reports. Any commissioner have a report?
Tom, just so with respect to the buyouts, that's open though to anybody making a motion at any given time. Should it make sense for the district to make that motion and have the board vote on it? I just wanted to say that.
Of course, anything we do, the 5 men can do whatever they please, whoever the 5 men are, or women. Excuse me. Hopefully they'll make good common sense decisions for the fire protection of Eastchester, but you're absolutely correct. But as of now, and most likely for the remaining of this year, I don't think the board's going to discuss buyouts, but any board member that wants to bring it up is certainly free to. Commissioner's report. Any commissioner has a report?
None.
Comments from Local 916?
Yes, Commissioners, good morning. First, I'd like to thank you for addressing the district's need for an MTO. I think it'll greatly help with the continuity in training and also standardizing it so we all are on the same page with all our training. And the local look forward to working with the board and negotiating that position. Secondly, regarding the transfer of a firefighter, I just want to make the board aware, whatever person comes over will have to be a true first year if that's what you're doing. There can be no negotiation in, I have seniority here, my vacation should be different, or I should get this or I should get that. It's your first year, and all the conditions of a first-year firefighter will apply to that person. So this way there can't be any variation of that.
Well, let me clarify that.
So Tom, I want to mention this. Steve, while this topic of transfer had started to be bandied about because the intelligence behind potentially putting somebody right on the line and not having to wait for everybody. I think I had heard that wasn't necessarily true. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's possible that you can be wrong. So I'm just saying, just making sure that there is this potential. I personally do not know, and I'm admitting that ignorance to that, but we'll certainly look at it.
Well, we have a contract. The contract states a first-year firefighter gets this pay, this vacation time, and whatever else they get. So if you're coming on as a first year, that's what you're going to get. And if you're not, it's going to be negotiated with the union, not an individual.
That's true. The one aspect is if, in fact, you have to come in as a first year. I had heard differently.
I don't know that. That's up to you. But whatever you come in as, if you come in as a senior guy, come in as a senior.
I don't know. I had heard differently, and Stu is so knowledgeable about all this stuff. I defer to him in this instant moment. But it's certainly something to look at.
There's no savings in money. If you don't come in as first year, there's no savings in money. If you're going to come in as a 5th year, you're going to be paying top salary, and then it kind of defeats the purpose. That's up to you. You handle it that way, but whatever year they come in at, it's got to be every condition of that year, without variation. Okay, and my final thing is, did you? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, my understanding as it is right now, which of course we reserve comment from our respective sides, nothing's in stone. My understanding is that the CBA indicates a first year, a second year, a third year, a 4th year, 5, 6 year firefighter. That moniker is contingent upon their employee determination with the district, which means if somebody has 5 years under their belt as we know, that we've recently hired somebody who was a firefighter with a number of years under their belt in our last round of hiring. They still came in as a first-year firefighter because that moniker is attached to the Eastchester Fire District, not wherever they were before that.
So, Stu, was there any distinction on whether they were a paid firefighter beforehand? No. Okay, that's...
No, we can't, what we can't do is we can't cross the line between what municipalities may do with civil service as far as saying, oh, I'm going to hire someone who is a senior office assistant at step 3 rather than step 1. It's not the same thing for us. As far as I understand, your collective bargaining agreement is set up in a way, and again, we reserve the right for our respective legal people to step in and whatever the board wants to do. But my understanding is it does not work the same way.
Great. This is very healthy, Stu and Steve. Very healthy.
All right, and this other comment is regarding the health and safety meeting. I just want to make the commissioners aware they are not able to negotiate. And I know it's brought up regarding members passing CPAT every year. That's something they should not have brought up. They don't have the authority to negotiate that with you. And if that should be something the board is looking into, you have to negotiate that with the executive board, not the health and safety committee. That's a minor issue. We can speak about that.
Stephen, thank you. And
that's
I will mention that the chief made a statement that none of these statements made here were binding. I apologize if I misspoke. It was just an idea, and that's all I was sharing as a standard.
No. I'm not putting any blame. Just that if we want to go forward on something like that, we'll gladly sit down with you, but we'll be with the executive board and not health and safety.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. I would also like to know the union's opinion because as we were talking about transferring in, much of the talk had to do with not having to send a firefighter to training, that they've already have that training. They went to the school. They've kept up their training. They're available to come immediately online. Is that acceptable to you as a transfer?
The union accepts anyone you hire. You know, we're saying at a hiring, you want to transfer, we accept them. You want to hire off the list, we accept them. I just got a purely monetary thing. If you're going to transfer and they come in as a first year, okay, you got the added bonus of saving money. If you're going to transfer and then they come in as a 6th year or 5th year, there is no savings in money, and is it prudent to hire off the list and get someone at bottom pay and Steve, just have to come online later? Where's the savings in money?
That's not 100% accurate because depending upon what that person, that firefighter brings, either he or she could actually potentially cause the difference in the salary to be not paid out in overtime. I don't know. I will tell you honestly, I don't know those numbers, but since we're keeping everybody's, what we're saying here 100% accurate, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, right. And the hour and 41 minutes I've been sitting on this call, I should have done the math, but I didn't. But I'm sure that there's a cost benefit somewhere. I don't know where it is. I can be completely wrong, and a top year pay might still save you money. I don't know.
No,
I don't want to act like I do. I do know the numbers. Yeah.
I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Well, you're very fair, Steve. You're very fair. So.
Thank you.
So if in fact an experienced firefighter is transferred to Eastchester Fire Department, the union will be fine with that member not going to Proby school. Is that what I'm hearing?
As long as you have the proper training and meets all the criteria we have to, then there's no issue.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Steve. All right, so Steve's correct point that he's been sitting here for an hour and 42 minutes. I will open it up to comments to the public.
Chief? Is the chief there?
I think he might have walked away.
All right. Well, I know that I got an email that there was at least one gentleman who wanted to speak, and they said that they were muted, and I'm looking at our space right now, and there's a couple people who are muted. I think the chief's the only person
Commissioner, sorry, I had to step away for a sec. I was still listening. I logged in with my cell phone and it says you're muted. To unmute, you press *6. So if somebody from the public is muted, I don't unmute them. They have to hit *6 and they should unmute themselves.
All right, great. Just so that they know.
So we're open for comments from the public.
Yeah, let's give it a second. I think people might be.
Yeah, let them try to negotiate.
Can everyone hear me? This is Jeff Zuckerman.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I have a couple of comments. First, this is just not off the top of my head, but I would really think that that the board could vote to change the policy to higher transfers on just step one. I think you could go beyond that, but that's something you would have to check out with your legal counsel. I don't think that's CBA language in any way, but that's just a comment I have. Anyway, I do want to say a couple of things. I'm going to try to do the technology here to play something, and let's just wait till it's over. I have two things that I took off the meeting from September 26th, which was just 4 months ago. Okay, and it speaks to something that Stu Raven was talking about before. So let's see if I can do it.
We would have paid them about $225,000 to $250,000 salary and benefits, and that probably would have eliminated $50,000 in overtime.
The last question. That's the first one. That's the first one where Commissioner wrote that we would do up $250,000 in overtime if we hired the 3 firefighters last year. But to have the 3 firefighters won. So I'm assuming that we're all in agreement with the state that when the budget was there was budgeted $200,000.
I'm sorry, Justin. I don't think anybody can really make out what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Hold, Mr. Zuckerman.
They would have graduated in June, and 3 people would have been available to cover the vacant position, eliminating an additional $250,000 to $300,000 overtime for the majority of it. You have 2 people out of. Okay, so there's my comment. My comment is that I played. Let me just finish, please. Let me just finish.
We can't hear it. We can't hear it, Mr. Zuckerman.
All right, so let me repeat. I played the 2 comments from the September 26th meeting. One was from Commissioner Roach, where he said, had you been able to hire the 3 firefighters all year last year, it would have saved $250,000 time. And then Chief Tween said that had you had those 3 firefighters all year, it would have saved $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime last year. Now that's just 4 months ago. This isn't 5 years ago. This is 4 months and a week ago, where you claimed that had you had the 3 firefighters, you would have saved $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime. So since the overtime budget for 2020, I understand, is $865,000. By either of your accounts, Commissioner Roach or Chief Tween, we can expect no more, a maximum of $500,000 in overtime for 2021. Now, everyone sitting there right now, plus myself, knows that that's not going to happen. You are not going to keep the overtime to $500,000 in 2021. Jamie will tell you that. You all know that. Why the chief and why Commissioner Roach said that on September 26th, I didn't know then, and I don't understand now. I think Stu and Brian certainly know it's not going to happen, although they wish it would. And I will say one more time, I've said it in September, your only control over this budget is through hiring. You are not going to stop the overtime. No matter what you say, no matter what you think you're going to do, you are not going to take overtime out of the mouths of the firefighters who count on money. If you save $300,000 in overtime this year, then every firefighter in Eastchester is going to lose approximately $3,000 or $4,000, and it's not going to happen. So stop the damn hiring and live with the overtime. And that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening, guys.
Well, Jeff, you're obviously free to run for fire commissioner, and then you'll even have a vote about what's going on. But I don't think you understood what you, as you quoted me, and I want to first state that when I made those statements in September, that was before Ethics Council said that I should abstain from the conversation. So, but you ask these questions now about something I said before Ethics Council opinion, so I guess I have to defend what I said. And what I said was very accurate. That had we hired in 2020 for the spring class, those three gentlemen, well, because we ended up hiring 3 men, but those 3 firefighters would have been available in June to work throughout the summer, and that would have saved us $350,000 in overtime. But the cost of those 3 firefighters was $250,000 for that year. Obviously, that was a first-year firefighter. Every year that cost goes up. The chief told you, well, maybe he didn't tell you specifically, but he told us that he has lost 2 more members since that September meeting. One on a retirement and the other on a transfer out. So those are the people that have to be replaced, or we will skyrocket overtime. You do not want to hire. I understand that. That is your opinion. It's a beautiful opinion for someone who wants to save money. But you cannot have fire protection and not hire. Your overtime, there is a ratio of, yes, you pay benefits and salary. And if you have less employees, you pay less benefits. And therefore, the overtime at some point, it's cheaper to pay overtime than the benefits. But at another point, it becomes very much more expensive to pay benefits to fewer people because they're making thousands and upon thousands. You said 3,000 to 4,000. Now you're talking 30, 40, 50,000, and all that money becomes pensionable, which then increases those costs. So what you said, your rhetoric sounds good, but when you really sit down and think about it, there is a balance that has to be made. I agree with you. There is a balance, but never hiring again. And I say this only to defend myself with comments that I made before Ethics Council asked me to abstain. Okay? So that's, I'm going to explain that with my words then, and that's where I felt, and I hope I don't have to say any more on it.
Well, let me just comment for 1 second. It's not a shell game. You hired the 3 guys. So we had them.
So you didn't listen to what I said, Jeff. If we hired them in the spring, it would have been effective. Hiring them in the fall did not do any good for us last year. It will help lower the overtime bill this year. Those 3 guys, otherwise we'd be 5 down. Again, it's a matter of balance. I know you know this, Jeff. You're a smart guy. Mathematicians do the work. You figure out where the balance is. There is some benefit of paying overtime, but you lose it at a point. As long as you're going to keep the company full.
But Tom, you have the 3 guys. You've had the 3 guys since
and
the end of the year.
guys left, Jeff. It's a fluid thing. We're not stagnant here. Numbers are coming and going.
Okay, and I'm going to make this statement. The more guys you have, the more overtime there's going to be. You could hire 10 more guys, and you'll have 40% more overtime. It's never going to go down. Never. And it's just a show game playing, and that's it.
I don't need to comment on that. I mean, that's your opinion. I'm sure that people agree with that, and others will say, well, no, if you hire, it'll force the overtime down. If you don't hire, obviously the overtime's going to go through the roof.
Okay, well, 2020, the overtime was $865,000. We're going to replace the two guys, so we should definitely be at least $250,000 below the $865,000. So we should be around $600,000 next year, correct?
No, because your numbers are wrong. You don't save $250,000 by hiring two guys. I mean, you certainly could, and you got to include their cost of salary, so it diminishes it. So you pay $250,000 in salary to save $300,000.
Tom, I'm only referring to the overtime number. I'm not referring to the cost to the school, to the fire district. I'm only referring to overtime. I'm not referring to what it costs to pay them and what it costs for their benefits. I'm just referring to overtime, which you and the chief said would go down by $250,000 to $300,000.
I did not say that, Jeff. I said we would have saved last year. I didn't say anything about what the balance would be. As a matter of fact, I think we even announced that we're increasing the overtime budget because we didn't want to keep the charade of pretending it was $500,000 when for the last 15 years it's been $800,000.
Okay, listen, I have to look to you and maybe to some others. Like I came down with last night's rain, but I didn't come down with last night's rain. And when you sat there 4 months ago, and the chief sat there 4 months ago and said, had we had these three guys, the overtime budget would have been, we would have saved $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime. Now we have those three guys. So now this year the overtime should be down by $250,000 to $300,000.
Well, can I jump in here for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Please, Tom. Jamie, you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we can probably figure out, so with the current staff we have, which is arguably down two guys.
And one member on light duty.
From where? Right. He was on light duty though.
All year.
But that's a vacant position that we have to fill. So we're really short 3 people on the line.
I just want to compare. There's an argument, there's a discussion going on. I just want to compare apples to apples. So in 2020, 3 guys were replaced, 3 firefighters were replaced, and so now arguably the difference between 2020 and what will be in 2021 is down 2 guys. So the overtime was $865,000 this year. Arguably, and we put, like Stuart said, $300,000 in there. Arguably, it should be, even by Jeff's admission, it should be at least less than $865, based on the fact that we're now down only 2 guys, right?
Assuming nobody retires. Because those numbers will change.
Right. So, Jamie, I think did a projection, a basic projection on what the overtime would be for this year. Jamie?
So you're asking me for a projection now?
Yeah, just what we thought it would be in 2021. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right now, it's looking that it's going to be very similar to 2020. I mean, each group is a person short, with the two positions that aren't filled, the 1 person on light duty, and multiple members on long-term leave that in some cases, you know, it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So if I look at the shortages in the groups, the vacation schedules, the float days, the fact that we're in a pandemic, the fact that we've had snow, we've had fires, I'm projecting a very close number to last year. That is based on estimates. It's based on how many, I know at this moment how many days, if somebody calls in sick, will create overtime. But I'm estimating based on historical sick leave. But I am coming out to a number very close to the 865 that we spent in 2020.
So an argument, if you transferred 2 firefighters in and they started working on March 1st, that has to affect the overtime in a downward way, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there's an argument for the transferee. The other argument, I think, we look at this, that over a 10-year period, no matter what number you had, 68, 72, 75, 76, the overtime was basically the same. I think that's what Jeff is. Look, I won't speak for Jeff, but I think that's what he's talking about. For if you had 10 more hirees, the overtime will not change.
And that's my whole point. Thanks very much for saying that. It doesn't matter. Commissioner Rhodes, it doesn't matter. You can hire these 2 guys in 2 weeks and have them the whole year, and that overtime never goes down. That's the challenge I throw the Eastchester Fire District. Tell me how that overtime ever goes down. You know what? Commissioner Winter said, he said the more guys you have, the more overtime there's going to be. So you can play this show game all you want. You have no capability whatsoever of bringing the overtime down. And that's it. As a matter of fact, the more guys you hire, the overtime's going to go.
Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment here?
Please.
All right. I appreciate people obviously taking part in the process and reviewing this stuff. I do want to just mention a couple. One is, I have to agree with Mr. Zuckerman. I think it's a commonality. It's not reinventing the wheel. The more people you hire, the more paid time off the district has to pay for, right? Everyone has vacation, they have personal days, the float days. Those days, more often than not, have to be covered by overtime if they're being used during a time or they're in a specific group. The chief indicates that position cannot go unfilled that day and that it has to be replaced for overtime. So on the surface, you're absolutely right. The more people you hire, the more overtime you have to pay. Same thing with police. Police and fire are intertwined very closely. The town of Eastchester, the village of Tuckahoe, and the village of Bronxville all have the same issue. It's just a matter of whether or not their boards bring it to the surface to have the attention put on it. The Eastchester Fire District, for as long as I can remember, has always brought this kind of conversation to the surface. Many of our other local municipalities don't bring their police overtime to the surface because that's not what they want to do. They choose not to, and it's up to the residents to inquire about how high that overtime may be, because I think many residents will come to find out that it's not just an Eastchester Fire District issue. But with that being said, Jamie is right, I assume, in her projection about overtime approaching or mimicking something like we saw in 2020. I think we have to just talk about the elephant in the room. When you have a certain overtime budget put in there, the overtime budget is there in order to cover people who are on paid time off to have coverage for their spots. The biggest issue is calling out sick, right? And that's not really anything more than an operational issue. It's a oversight issue. It's been beaten to death 100 times. And that is what the public needs to understand. The commissioners are not here to verify somebody's decision to call out sick on a certain day. That's the chief's job. We may get reports about who's sick and why there's, that they're going to be out and if overtime is required, and how many times that they have called out. But it's the manager, the district manager, or the chief, who's the chief of operations, to make a determination about whether or not overtime needs to be approved. If a person's reason for being out is appropriate, and the commissioners are removed from that process. Now, can that change? Yeah, I don't see it changing. I think it's always been that way. Some people have gone to come to me and come to other people, and they've said, "Oh, well, this one is out sick or that one is out sick," and we have to deal with that. And there's also going to be legitimate sick issues. And if somebody's out on either a short-term or a long-term injury, we have to fill that role with somebody else. Now, what we also have to be mindful of is that if we get ourselves too low, and I'm not saying that we're at that point now, but we have been in the past. If we get ourselves too low to the point where our employees are being consistently overworked, then that's a liability for those employees, those firefighters, lieutenants, and captains, and what have you, to be able to properly protect the town and the two villages. If somebody is overworked because a lot of other people are either out for long-term sick, out for short-term sick, or abusing overtime, it's only going to hurt the coworkers, their health, and their ability to do their job, which is something that every employee has to take into consideration. If you can walk into work every day and know that you're in top health and the person next to you is in top health, and you do your job, that's a great thing. But if somebody has reservations about whether or not somebody is putting in 100%, like the person next to you, then that's up to the employee to bring that issue to the chief, and if necessary, bring it to the Board of Commissioners. I've never seen anybody come to us and say that they feel that people are inappropriately calling out sick. Maybe people need to do that. But as of right now, our sick time develops because of calling out. Very few long-term injuries, if memory serves me. Usually we only have about 2 to 3 a year. So we're not like we have 10 to 12 people who are calling out for long-term injury every year and are out for a year, out for several months. We have a few people that, because of COVID, have been limited from being able to come back because certain things are not available to them right now, and that's understandable. But I've never been brought anything by any chief that I have been elected for, any other board member, that has said that they've received a complaint from a coworker that they're not putting in what they need to put in. So we need to either see that or realize the beast. And the public needs to understand that. When we had the conversations in September with various members of the public that we weren't filling overtime and that places were being closed down or whatever the case may be, certain people were enlightened that they did not know that we have large overtime costs, and it was explained to them as plainly as I am now. And a lot of people responded and said, "Well, how can that be?" Well, come to a meeting and find out. I think our firefighters are trying to do the best they can. I never doubt that. I think that whenever they get called into service, we have no reason to believe otherwise. But when it comes down to a financial discussion of civilians, if we will, with Tom excluded and Paul ran alone, of course, we look at it from a very different perspective. I just wanted to put that out there. Yes, I agree. The more people you hire, the more overtime. But that's generally calculated by the district as an understanding. There's paid time off to be paid. What we can't really ever get a grasp on is if people are ill and what we have to do to cover that spot. That falls on the chief to make those calls.
Stu, can I say something? You're right. And you did address that in public, and it's true. The public, I think, didn't know that a good portion of the 800 and upwards of $800,000 a year in overtime comes from different things, where vacation and training and there is a number, I don't know what it is, that is earmarked for, at the end, the resultant is based on calling in sick. Jamie can give that number on average per year, what it costs with all the sicknesses. And you're right, the board should never, it's prudent obviously, should never determine whether somebody is sick or not. It's true. We don't do that. That's the chief's job.
Well, the board has the White Plains Urgent Care that makes that determination. I don't evaluate somebody's medical condition and determine whether it's a valid sick leave. They have to go see White Plains Urgent Care when they call in sick. Right now it's through telemedicine because of COVID protocols. But everybody has to call Dr. Doyle at White Plains Urgent Care, and they speak to the member that's out sick. Dr. Doyle sends Jamie and I a piece of paper that says it's founded or unfounded. So I don't make the determination. We rely on our medical physician to make that determination.
No, Brian, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the board doesn't deal with it operationally. I'm not saying that you make the determination whether somebody is sick or not. That would be very bad. I'm just saying operationally, like Stu says, we don't do it.
Yes, I agree. And I'm saying that I rely on the department physician to make the medical determination.
Any other comment?
Yes. Can you hear me? My name is Ellen Del Cole.
Hello, Ellen.
Hi, good. I was going to say good morning, and then I looked at the clock. But in that case, happy Saturday. I wanted to start off by saying a couple of things that are positive, very positive. I live next door to the building that had the fire in Field End Lane, and I was among the people who, for thankfully many reasons, was evacuated. I can't express how much gratitude we have to my two upstairs neighbors, Michelle and Jade Cave, because I think we throw around the word heroism a lot. And these two, mother and daughter, Michelle woke up and by smelling smoke and hearing crackling, she looked out her window, saw smoke, yelled to her daughter to dial 911, and the two of them took off in pajamas, barefoot, to get people out in Building 12. And their screaming, and I've teased them about it, was heard as far as about a block away. They screamed, "Fire, fire, get out." My sister, who lives down the street on Field End, called me, but in the meantime, my two cats had erupted with screeching. And it was like everything happened at once, and I heard the yelling. My sister called and said, "Get next door because we have an older lady on the first floor. Help her out." And with that, there was banging. The Eastchester Police Department were there immediately banging on our doors to get us out. But I'd really like these two ladies acknowledged for what they did. They're very, very quiet people. They've lived here over 20 years. I mean, really, we've acknowledged to them, and I just don't know how we're going to emphasize enough that we're so fortunate, for whatever circumstances, that Michelle woke up, and that really they didn't care what happened to them. They just took off, and they helped everybody else, and the whole neighborhood came together. But really, those two ladies, we owe a debt of gratitude as the people who had to get out of our homes that morning.
Thank you, Ellen. That's an awesome story. And I visited the scene. I think that everyone worked very hard together. I think the fire department did an excellent job and quickly knocked out that fire. And we're so grateful there wasn't any serious injuries.
If I could ask, though, a couple of, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'd like to ask a couple of questions. only because it was what was told to us at the scene. And again, everybody was, I mean, including the neighbors, it was remarkable how people came together. We, standing outside, I called the property manager, Gary Saccinelli, because having an understanding, knowledge to some extent of the buildings from having served on the board for a long time in the past, I was afraid of the gas line blowing, and I called the property manager, and he was there immediately. But the fire captain came over to us, and by us, I mean the other 3 residents of my building and I, and it was as the fire was pretty much out. Chief, I think you may have gone in at this point, because we did see you arrive and then walk up the pathway to the building and go in. We were told the origin of the fire, and in fact, I heard the firefighters pointing where it originated and what the origin was. And in full disclosure, I do have a FOIL request in with the department right now. I filed it, I believe, on the 2nd, asking some questions. But I'm just wondering why the cause appears to be different. Number one, since we were told that day by the captain, we heard the firefighters talking because we were all the way back, but yet voices were carrying, and we saw them pointing up at the corner of the building. And the other question that I have is, it just feels kind of awkward. I'm going to say it was probably 35 years ago that my late husband and I saw a neighbor's house that was burning, and it was pre-cell phones. And my husband yelled at me to call 911. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was in Dutchess County. But afterwards, the people investigating the fire spoke with us individually. They didn't speak to us together. I guess maybe they wanted to make sure, that we weren't trying to each come up with the same story. But no one asked any questions. And my neighbors in this building, we're puzzled by that. And because we were there the whole time. And we know what we saw, we know what we heard. And I would just think that we would have been, it would have been worthwhile to speak to us. I don't know how this is done, of course. I don't claim any knowledge of it. I'm simply asking because I find it confusing. And that's really it. And thank you for the time of listening.
Commissioner Roach, if I can address some of her questions. Ellen,
he stepped away. Go ahead.
Okay. He might have froze up. It looks like he's in the picture, but anyway, Ellen, as far as the gas line, the fire never was in the kitchen area where the gas would be. It was in.
But we didn't. Truthfully, when I arrived, Chief, I didn't know that. I mean, I came running out of my front door, heard a crackling, and a piece of the glass on the first floor where the kitchen is located popped out, and a flame shot out. And at that point, I knew I had to call the property manager, which I did. And he came, and I know he shut off the gas to the building. But not knowing where it was, that is my reason, and that's why I was worried about it. So I appreciate that part.
Right. So most of the gas lines are in the walls. The stove, if it's involved, will shut off the gas remotely. If we think it has caused integrity damage to the gas valve behind the stove, we'll shut off gas to the whole building. But that is a huge issue with Con Ed. It could take you 2 months to get the gas turned back on because pressure tests have to be done throughout the building. So we try to isolate the utilities as necessary. And you know, if you want to shut off the gas and your building super wants to do that, that's fine. But once we do it, we call Con Ed, and everything gets red tagged, and there has to be certain compliances with the building department before it gets turned back on. So that's as far as the gas.
Absolutely, I understand that.
Okay, so that's why we usually try to isolate the gas.
Itself.
I'll get to that next, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we call in Westchester County Arson Task Force to do the investigating. We're trained in suppression. In the past, Chief Fenley was trained in investigations, and he would do some investigations for fires in-house. Currently, we don't have anybody trained in doing fire investigations other than our normal training that we get through probationary school and our annual training. So we get an awareness training. Don't disturb the scene, try to do as little damage as possible. Call in the trained investigators. So we bring in Westchester County Arson Task Force. They had 3 investigators on the scene. We relayed to them what the citizens were saying about the candles. There are other causes potentially. Electrical. Could have been the candles. It could have been several causes that they could not eliminate. So in their preliminary report, their summary report that they give to us, which is a one-page report, it said that it was undetermined to the cause. People could say that they think it was candles, but you can't say that because there was a lot of damage. And insurance companies will bring in their own investigators and do more thorough investigation. It's up to our investigators to make sure it was not arson. Not determine the exact cause. Determine that it was not suspicious and it was not arson. It could have been electrical, it could have been candles, it could have been, who knows. But the professional's opinion, and they do a full report at Westchester County. So we do an incident report that says what the fire department did there. Stretched hoses, ventilated, overhaul. Called in the county arson investigative team. So those 3 investigators get together and do a report. When we reply to your FOIL, which we received, and we'll respond in proper time, you'll get a copy of the summary report from Westchester County arson investigators. They don't talk to people outside because they determine, okay, well, it could have been the candles, it could have been something else. So, if they felt the need, they were going to go up to Westchester Medical Center or White Plains Hospital to talk to the resident that they couldn't speak to. And I don't know, maybe they did talk to the people, some of the people there. There was a lot of people walking around, and there was 3 investigators. So, they do a thorough report. They're very well trained. They're trained to go to court if there's any disputes in the cause and origin report. And so that's why we bring in the experts. So it was officially an undetermined cause, not suspicious. And that's what we're required to determine for our fire report.
Okay, just to clarify a couple of things, you mentioned a possible source. I did not, because I choose not to.
Well, those reports are public, so.
Right, but I only know what I've heard, but I did not bring up what has been, gone through the rumor mill. I can only relate also to, as I said, what I had known personally was done many, many years ago in terms of speaking with people. But I know that my upstairs neighbors and I have had a conversation as late as last Tuesday. And no one they said they spoke to no one from an arson task force or anything like that. We are not making accusations in any way, shape, or form. All we want to be is safe. We're very appreciative for everything that was done. And, we have to leave it up to you folks because you're the professionals. We're just still getting through this process of understanding what happened to, essentially it was 4 families, because one family left until their place was remediated for smoke in their toddler's nursery. We are very appreciative. We are not saying what a cause was or wasn't. We just know what we were told by the chief, not the chief, the captain that day, because he made a point of walking over to us. We were standing as a group in front of probably, I think it was building 8, first question was, how's everybody doing? But, this is not an ultimate criticism. All I'm doing is just asking questions. That's all.
Okay, and I'm just saying that we bring in an outside investigative team, and I'm sure if they felt that they needed to speak to the other residents, I'm sure they would have done that to, make the report complete. Maybe they felt that just by examining the scene, that, they found what they felt was the information they needed.
Okay,
so I don't know if they will follow up with you. It's however they conduct their investigation.
I'm more thinking the women definitely who were there on the scene, who actually evacuated Building 12. Mrs. Cave and her daughter. But anyway, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your answers.
Sure. Thank you for helping out the scene.
I did very little. All I did was push people and tell them to get away from the pathway. And the neighbors were very receptive. My sister, the Martucci family, the Rodriguez family, people welcomed neighbors with open arms. They came out with blankets and shoes and socks and masks. And they were incredibly gracious and caring. And we realize how fortunate we are as a community within Interlaken, but also as a whole in Eastchester, that we have people like this among friends.
Yes, that was great to see.
Well, thank you very much for your comments, and we appreciate your attendance at our meeting. Are there any other public comments?
Yeah, this is Jeff Zuckerman again. Can I say one more thing?
Why not, Jeff?
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry to take up any more time. I just want to thank Stu Raven. Also at that September 26th meeting, Stu said that he was only for hiring through attrition, and he reiterated that today, and I find that very consoling. So thanks so much, Stu.
Thank you, Jeff. We all feel that Stu does a great contribution to the district. Anything else?
He's been amazing.
All right, in that case, I'll make a motion to close the public session to enter executive session.
Yeah. Tom, do we need to, yes, I would second that, Tom.
Okay, so Chief, if you could close this public meeting and open up an executive session meeting that we can all join the email.
I think we need to vote, Tom.
Oh, thank you. So I'll call a roll to end the meeting, the public session of this meeting. Commissioner Ranalone.
Aye.
Commissioner Keating.
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo.
Aye.
Commissioner Rabin.
Okay.
Commissioner Roach is okay. So Chief, that's good to go?
No, I haven't set it up yet. I'll do it right now. It should just take a few minutes. And the 5 board members, is Jamie getting an invitation, and is anybody else getting an invitation?
Jamie's certainly more than capable if she has the time to join us. I don't think it's other than you and us. Are we going to call our legal counsel? Does he need to get an invitation?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so no, the 7 of us, Chief.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for coming to the Eastchester Fire Board.
Likewise. Thank you, Tom.